if he walks out in Sao Paulo, if they go to Sao Paulo and he does a retirement ceremony again where he goes and puts his glove, I'm throwing something into my TV. I can't do it again, Chael.
What's happening, guys? You are in luck. Another episode of Good Guy, Bad Guy. I'm Chael. He's Daniel. We got a lot to get to, partner. Where do you want to begin?
Hey, bro. Charles Oliveira did it again, Chael. Goes to Brazil and completely dominates Mateusz Gamrot. Hey, Gamrot was celebrating.
He took him down.
Hey, Gamrot was celebrating and happy when he got the fight. Sometimes you celebrate some stuff that you really don't want, dog. Chael, I was so hard on Oliveira about coming back so soon after the knockout against Ilia Topuria. Chael, I got to eat crow, my brother. Charles Oliveira got hit by Gamrot. Didn't matter. Charles Oliveira walked him down, took him down, completely dominated him on the ground, and got a submission. Dude, how impressive was Charles Oliveira this weekend?
I've got to know him on a personal level just recently, like 4 and 5 months ago. And Daniel, he's different. I mean, when he comes out and he says something in the media, he's not cutting promos. He's not trying to build hype. He started talking about this over a week ago. When he didn't have an opponent, he said, I don't care who the opponent is. Everybody says they don't care who the opponent is. They all care who the opponent is. He didn't care who the opponent was. Gamrot is a terrible matchup for Charles Oliveira, by the way. He goes out, and what he really wanted to do was to perform in front of his own people. That was his biggest deal. There is no such thing as a home field advantage in MMA. It's true in football. It's not true in MMA. Nobody rises to the occasion, not like this. Plus, he's coming off that knockout. We saw this from Volkanovski. If you come back too quickly after a knockout, it's a tremendous problem. Charles said, I don't care anything about this. I'm not thinking about retirement. I'm not thinking about anything but getting my belt back. I'll do whatever it takes. These aren't just words when he says them. He's really letting you know how he feels. It turns out Charles Oliveira is a straight-up badass.
Yeah, he is. And he's the best, Chael. That's one of the things about Oliveira. Like, he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He's an absolute killer. Right? But when he's outside the octagon, he's sweet. He's very giving. Like, he doesn't, hold anything back. Speaks to you clearly. He's the man. But I was like, yo, I'm not on you about fighting. I'm on you in terms of concern. There was no reason to be concerned for Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira. He walked out there on Saturday to exactly what he expected, right? You know why he wanted that fight. There is not an arena in the world where Oliveira's song hits the speakers. It's that it's almost like a gospel Brazilian song. I swear to God, it's like gospel playing through the arena. There's not an arena in the world that music hits, a song in which no one knows the words to. They go as crazy as they do for Charles Oliveira. But he got what he wanted Saturday because not only did they go crazy, that place exploded. The roof came off the building when that song came out, in a place where people do know the words to that song. So they were all singing it with Charles Oliveira as he walks into the octagon. Dude goes out there and pitches an absolute masterpiece. A no-hitter, if you're talking in baseball terms. He gets a takedown on Gamrot early. I was surprised in the first round that Gamrot took him down so quickly because you know the danger that Oliveira can put you in once you get him on the ground. But he was struggling so much on the stand-up. So when he took Charles down, bro, Charles got his leg wrapped around his neck at one point. Then Charles has him in an omoplata. Then eventually Charles reverses Gamrot. And in the second round, Charles is like, wait a minute. This is so easy on the ground. I'm going to take him down. He goes and takes Gamrot down and submits him. Bro, I don't know what else to say about Charles Oliveira.
I appreciate your analysis, and I can already hear Glenn telling us later today that he wants a deep X's and O's from his two leading experts. But Daniel, this wasn't a physical thing. This was mental. This is what's so impressive was the mental approach, the turnaround, the self-belief and confidence that Oliveira did. From an X's and O's, in the short fight that it was, he showed to be a complete fighter, man. There wasn't one position that he didn't. He threw hands, he threw kicks, he controlled space, he pushed energy. But Daniel, it's very hard when you watch this to not, a little piece of you, wonder just how good is Ilia Topuria.
Yes.
Like for Ilia to, that's very hard to just give the praise to Charles here, knowing what Ilia did to him. But this turnaround, by Charles. And by the way, Gamrot, we didn't get into the short notice part. The short notice part comes when you start breathing hard and you get fatigued. These were regular rounds that Charles is showing off in. I see it your way. It was inspiring. And you don't get to use that word in sport very often. It was actually inspiring.
Chael, yes. We didn't get to round 3, 4, and 5 where you start getting tired because the fight was on short notice. Round 1 and 2, you should still feel pretty good because you should always be in shape to fight a 3-round fight if you're a professional fighter. But Oliveira dominated, man, and it was actually fun to watch. But it also shows you the why for so long it's been a select group of guys that have controlled this division. It takes a real special guy like an Ilia Topuria, like a Paddy Pimblett to break in to that. Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler used to be there, and Tony Ferguson used to be there. Who, by the way, Tony Ferguson was knocked out of that place by Charles Oliveira when Charles got his opportunity, which ultimately made him. But you watch Gaethje beat Fiziev a couple times. You watch Oliveira beat this kid again, Gamrot. And these older guys are showing, hey, we're still here, and we're still going to be a part of the conversation going forward in this weight class. But when you talk about Oliveira, he's a guy that, you know, the title right now may not be on in the short term, right? The title might not be in the short term. But, Chael, he goes out and he has the most perfect solution for being Charles Oliveira. While I might not fight for the undisputed title, I get that. I got knocked out in the last time. There is a beautiful black and silver belt that is held by a guy I have history with. There is held by a guy that I know will put up fun fights that we could fight for. I would like to fight Max Holloway for the BMF title. It's the perfect call out at the perfect time. And as you would expect, the Blessed Express right away says, hey, I'm all for it, but it happens on my terms. I'm not going to Rio. I'm not going to Brazil. We fight in Vegas or something. And as the champion, Max deserves to say that. But, dude, how perfect is Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway for the BMF title?
Oh, I love it. And this isn't brand new, by the way. Just to take you back to New Orleans, Max Holloway defeats Dustin Poirier, doesn't even put his T-shirt on, walks on the set of ESPN, calls out Charles Oliveira. So there is something, you know, they've got that pass, but something between these two really nice guys has never quite settled. And I just got to tell you, I love the call out, just so the audience understand this. It turned out that Max was live. He's doing a live stream. Yep. He's on the internet. He sees himself get called out. He responds in the moment, and he did not flinch. He did say, I'm not coming to Rio. Hey, last time Max got on an airplane, it didn't go so well. The way that Charles performed, I don't blame Max. That's not really a bad call. That's not quite the way this game is played. But ultimately, just so everybody is very clear, Max accepted. And Max agreed to put up the belt. And yes, I think that's the direction that we're going to likely go.
Well, Max has gone to Rio to fight Jose to win his belt. Max has gone to New Orleans to fight Dustin Poirier. Max doesn't want to go back to Brazil to fight someone else. Like, he should at some point get to fight on his terms. And I believe that he's rightfully saying this needs to be in Vegas because they call that like the 13th island or something. From Hawaii's 12 islands or some crazy stuff like that. That's like the 13th island is what Max calls it. So that'll be good. So I would love to watch those two fight. But Chael, when you talk about Charles Oliveira and what he has done, first off, I never, in my wildest dreams, when I watched Paul Felder, all respect to my boy, finish Charles Oliveira, thought that fast forward a number of years, I would be sitting on ESPN, the worldwide leader, asking you the question I'm about to ask you. Chael. Charles Oliveira, remember the guy that everybody said, if you pressure him, he'll quit. He has no heart. He this. Yep. I want to ask you the crazy thing. Oliveira has now the most finishes in the UFC history. He has the most submissions in the UFC history. He has the second most wins in UFC history. He's won 7 times in Brazil. On the other side of that, to the right of that record, 0 losses. Every time he goes to Brazil, he has won. So when we look at Oliveira with the title win, and the title defenses, and what he is, all those records now, is this the greatest Brazilian fighter we have ever seen? Anderson, I get it. Jose, Renan Moral, Nogueiras, Shogun. Is this guy the greatest Brazilian fighter we've ever seen?
Vandalay, Vitor. I hear you on this.
In
Okay,
the UFC.
so
In the UFC.
I am so guilty of short-term memory because it was a week ago that I was telling you that Alex Pereira was the greatest fighter the world's ever seen. But I do get your point. And by the way, Daniel, for somebody that gets better later in their career, that's the inspiring part that I was speaking about. Randy Couture did it, but he started his career at 34. He had no experience. We knew he was going to get better. Robbie Lawler was one of these guys that you could get tired and he would wilt. And then all of a sudden, you don't want to be in the 5th round with Robbie Lawler. He got better with age. He figured it out with time. I'm one of the detractors to Charles Oliveira. I fought on a card with Charles. He was an undercard to a young man named Jim Miller. Charles, the submission ace, which is what we heard about because we weren't overly familiar. He was a young boy, I want to say 24 years old. Got submitted in a straight knee bar by Jim Miller. I mean, I'm just sharing for you. Like, I still have these memories. To look at Charles for what he is, which you're arguing now one of the greats ever, whether he is or not, the fact that Daniel Cormier suggested on ESPN that he might be, proves your point. And to watch him get better with time, are you telling me 2 years from now, there's a chance this guy is better than he is today? That's just not the way the game is played, and that is the part that is so inspiring.
Well, for me, it's like this, right? So people get judged on losses more than wins, right? No matter what you do. Because there was a time, Chael, when Anderson Silva was rolling that I never thought for a second anyone would ever be considered better at this sport than Anderson Silva had done MMA. But then as he got older, obviously he starts to lose fights. The shine kind of comes off of him. And Oliveira, that's in reverse, right? He was young when he was taking his losses. So are you judged harsher for losing late, which is expected, or losing early, which is expected, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're young in the UFC, as young as Oliveira started, you should hit some bumps in the road. When you're older, when Anderson's 40 and he's still fighting in the UFC, you should be losing to guys on the way out. So how do we base this decision? Because if we say the young and experienced guy is supposed to lose at that point, then all we have seen Oliveira do as a man is fight at the highest level and find success.
That was very philosophical. I don't know if you meant for it to be, but you're right. This isn't the way the game is played. Everybody runs into a bad patch. They do it late. They do it on their way out. They start cashing checks. We've never really seen it where somebody got such a bumpy start. Anthony Smith did not do it in the UFC, but at one point his record was like 7-12. He had a very rough start and takes that all the way to a 5-round decision against Jon Jones. But I hear what you're saying about Charles. Listen, on a personal level, I knew Charles was great. I mean, you hear the reputation, you hear the words, just like you and I were hearing about this guy called Khamzat Chimaev 2 years before the rest of the world saw him. But Daniel, how could have he had a big confidence? Poverty is real. Living in the favelas is real. Growing up, you got a mom there, and then you got aunts and uncles, and dad's not around. I mean, I'm just sharing with you, like, to be a young boy that gets thrown into the spotlight of the UFC and to not fully believe in yourself. When he got straight knee barred by Jim Miller, just for example, that wasn't because he didn't know that position. It was just one of these things where he didn't believe that he should be in that moment. He couldn't quite comprehend it, so he was going to fix the world with this negative prophecy and go ahead and get himself out of there. When we watched him start to get confidence and realize, hey, I'm one of these guys, and then it turns into, I belong. Then it turns into, I'm the man. When we watched him do that, that's when we started to see those record changes. If you go back and you watch the fights that he did lose, including to Paul Felder, there was some very good moments. There was ways that he found to make sure the other guy had better moments. And I'm just sharing, confidence is real, and sometimes it takes some experience, and he might have, in hindsight, got thrown into the octagon a little younger than he was quite ready.
And boy, some of those fights, though, on his way to becoming the champion, the way he beat Tony Ferguson up in the Apex, the way he did Dustin Poirier. Hey, Dustin was fighting well, but his pressure, he just broke him down, submitted him. Michael Chandler on so many occasions. This dude is the man. I don't know, Chael. When I start to really think about it, I'm like, yo, if there is anybody better, right? All due respect to Anderson, Nogueira, and Vandalay and all those guys, it's a very short list, if there is a list at all, of better guys from Brazil that have done it inside the UFC octagon than Charles Oliveira. He's the man.
Daniel, Daniel, can I just throw one final thought at you? Because 155, there's something going on right now, and I think it's something that's already decided in the UFC and hasn't been revealed to us. But Sarukian's got his hands full with Hooker. That gets named a #1 contenders match. Okay, great. But allegedly, Ilya is going to come back in January. Now, you don't have very many players on the board. You're kind of looking right to Gaethje. You're kind of looking right at Paddy the Baddy. Then we have this great turnout by Charles Oliveira. We got Max, who's always a good option, but they've now removed each other from the board. They're kind of going down this path together. So again, that leaves you with Ilya, that leaves you with Gaethje, and
Paddy
that leaves
and
you with
Gaethje.
Yes.
It's
So
gonna come
where
down
does
to
Paddy
those
the
two.
Baddy go?
It's coming down to those two.
Yes.
If we see either Gaethje or Pimblett get scheduled, we got our answer. It's only two guys now that could be fighting Ilya Topuria whenever he returns. It's crazy.
But my bigger point was, if it does go in the direction we think, that would leave Ilya without a dance partner. Like, Ilya and Charles make sense, but Charles is now busy with Max. Ilya for a title, or rather Paddy for a title, makes sense. But if Max is the only one with the other belt and he goes with Charles, it kind of just leaves Paddy in a big of a purgatory. And I suggest, I like backup fighter position. By the way, I don't think it's an insult. I think it's a compliment. Save that thought. I might look smart in a couple of weeks, partner.
You're the man, Chill. Another guy, right? Like as I was talking about that short list of guys that could potentially be above Charles Oliveira. One of them retired last weekend. But Chael, come on, man. I don't mean to be that guy, man. I don't mean to be the guy. Michael Bisping said it. Whenever José Aldo goes in, lays the gloves down, Bisping goes, I'm kind of jealous I didn't get this in England, right? Like, come on. I meant a lot. Hey, if there's ever a guy that deserves to have that happen, it was José Aldo Jr. I am a massive fan of José Aldo Jr. Very rarely do I get starstruck. I still felt that way when I would see Aldo. But chill. Come on, we've seen it time and time again.
We're not done seeing it. Daniel, the rules are different for this young man. The respect that the UFC has shown him, I mean, they must really, like, on a personal level, like José Aldo, because you're right, these opportunities are so rare. You and I got to make that walk at the Hall of Fame, but it's very special. They play your music, the crowd is there. For the first time they're playing the music and you get to walk in front of the crowd. You don't have the stress of having to fight a guy in a cage. Like, it's a very cool moment. And what Jose means to Rio, right? What mixed martial arts means to all of Brazil, but then you really break it down. Jose's one of the biggest stars ever. Just to be getting this opportunity, he must be one of the biggest stars ever. The crowd loves him. To act as though I'm not envious of that, yes, I am. And by the way, it's not done. Like, he's playing by a different set of rules. We're going to see Jose make that walk to that octagon and hear that ovation at least a couple more times.
Okay, let me say this. As a massive fan of José Aldo Jr., that is me laying down a foundation for my love for Aldo. I'm over it. Like that, just this. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Chael, at the Hall of Fame, when he retired, I was emotional. I was emotional watching him hear his song, Run This Town by Rihanna, and he was like, oh, this is so good. Going into the Hall of Fame. The stress of all this career is done. I've got money. I've got this. I was like, yes, for this guy. He didn't get out clean because nobody does. But he got out in a way where his legacy's intact. He still got all of his facilities, or at least it feels that way. And he goes and fights again. Then he walks out in Brazil. He comes out, Run This Town. It's very emotional. Chill. Let me tell you something. I can't get emotional for someone multiple times like that over and over again. So I'm done with it, Chill. Jose, I just want you to be done. If you're done, Jose, please. I can't watch you. If he walks out in Sao Paulo, if they go to Sao Paulo and he does a retirement ceremony again where he goes and puts his gloves, I'm throwing something into my TV. I can't do it again, Chael. I can only do that once. I can only do it once or twice. That's it. I can't do it no more, Chael. It was awesome. Happy you got that moment, Chael. But please, let's be done with the retirement. Am I wrong?
I co-sign that statement. We can move on. We can move on right now.
Come on, man. We can't do it that many times. Okay. José Aldo, congratulations on a career that has been So important to the UFC that you got to do it twice in tremendous fashion. But a guy that's still fighting, or at least still the champion but not fighting right now, is Alex Pereira. Alex was in Brazil last weekend. He spoke about what he wants to do. He spoke about his injury. He said he broke his foot right away. So obviously the way that he beat Ankalaev was probably the only way, right? Because if he has a broken foot, it would have been very difficult for that to go 25 minutes. But he spoke about wanting to fight Jon Jones at the White House. He spoke about what his career looks like going forward. But what I want to focus on is him having a break. The longest break he's ever had in his UFC career was the one that he just came off. He was out for 7 months between the Magomed Ankalaev fights. Is this a blessing in disguise for Pereira, though, to have to sit on the side with the broken foot? Because as you know, he loves to be active. And with activity, at times you can find yourself in much tougher fights than you expect to be in, but also get beat.
Yeah, theoretically, of course, he'd rather not have the broken foot than the broken foot. But to speak to your point, people need breaks. People need a rest. I mean, there's a reason that sports have a season. And it's not because the fans are going to stop coming out. It's the players, they got to rest to enable to extend their career. And Pierre is getting a lot of rounds in. He's getting a lot of training camps in. He's getting a lot of weigh-ins in. He's getting a lot of flights in. Look, this is the first time in a meaningful amount of time that we've heard him quite so vocal about an opponent. And going after Jon Jones is not something I really remember people doing. When Jon was the champion, people went after the championship, which involved Jon Jones. Why would you ever want to fight Jon Jones? I mean, why would Pierre want to fight Jon Jones? And one thing about it, he's not inviting Jones to come down and challenge for his belt. Pierre's big idea, which, by the way, is a really great idea from the world of our industry. That is a massive fight. What would they be fighting for? And it's one of those things that does leave a little question here. I don't suggest that we don't do it because of that. I'm only suggesting to you, you have a champion of the world that would like to go and do a fight that is not for the championship of the world. But he sees legacy. He sees the importance. He sees the ability to close the book on the idea of the GOAT. I get all of those things. But to go after Jon right now, when the loss of his brother, it's a hard thing. Now, this is a dance that I think Pierre is doing very well. I don't think that Pierre has made this personal at all. I think he's called out and been pretty respectful, basically saying what I'm just saying, that this is a fight that needs to happen. We're both under contract. We both think a certain way about ourselves. I'm willing to take the risk and actually figure it out. I love that from a sportsman standpoint, but I will tell you, what do we do with that division? If you got your champion that, one, is telling you that he's injured, and two, telling you he wants to leave the division, what do we do with that? At some point, we got to take a guy at his word. We got to pull that belt back, and we got to get on with it. I don't know that we're there. I'm just sharing with you. We're going in that direction.
But I believe that idea, Chael, becomes real now because legacy, right? You said he's deciding, and I love it, Chael. I'm aligned with you on everything. He's called out the most dangerous guy. He's called out the guy that elevates his legacy. But then we go, what's it for? As you said, is that as important now? Because we saw this just last year with Jones, where Jones told the UFC, right? Jones was the one that made this a possibility, Chael. Because he told the UFC, I'll do the Aspinall fight down the line, this Stipe fight. Me beating the greatest heavyweight of all time means more. So give me this legacy fight. We'll deal with whatever's down the line afterwards. Now, obviously, Jon retired and vacated the belt, but Pereira could ask, hypothetically, right? Because now that door's been opened, that, hey, give me the legacy fight. I'll deal with whatever else later. Give me the fight that matters to my legacy. Hell, you did it for Jon Jones just last year. So, yeah, now Jones is on the other side of that, right? He's on the other side of a condition that he introduced into the world. Because before, Chael, we never saw legacy fights matter more than a title. But we saw it last year in the heavyweight division in Madison Square Garden, where Jones beat Stipe Miocic.
Sure. Yes. And by the way, should Surreal get the jump on Tom Aspinall, it does change how we look at this. Like the idea of Jon versus Surreal is just not a direction that I think that anybody's going to move in. And so I just suggest for you, maybe Pereira likes the heavyweight championship a little bit more if it's around Ciril's waist. Maybe Jon sees the importance of Pereira. I mean, not for nothing, but this big heavyweight title fight that we have, for the conversation we're having right now, the results of that fight are going to impact our opinion on this topic.
That is exactly what we have to wait on for Abu Dhabi in a couple weeks. But also, if Ciryl Gane wins the fight, I think we have more of a chance of Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira.
Agreed.
Because I don't imagine the UFC would say, okay, Jon, you could have a title fight against Ciryl Gane. Hell, they might let Alex get a title fight against Ciryl Gane. And then Alex needs to wait. I think he's showing his hand a little bit, Chael. Tom Aspinall is the man right now. But like you said, if he is to lose this fight, more people would say, I could fight Ciryl Gane, which I think is so dangerous because Ciryl Gane is as good as anyone in the world. And I've watched him just destroy dudes. And what he did to Tai Tuivasa in Paris, where he actually was trying to hurt him, makes Ciryl Gane as dangerous as anyone. But if Tom Aspinall just wipes him out, then what? Nobody's going to want. They don't want to fight Aspinall now. Imagine if he looks like a world beater against Ciryl Gane. It's crazy to think that the heavyweight champion is so, I don't want to say feared, because I really don't believe that these fighters are afraid of anyone, but he's so respected that the greatest fighter of all time didn't want to really fight him. But Alex Pereira might need to hold his hand a little closer, because if Ciryl does win, he can go, I want to fight for the heavyweight title. If Tom Aspinall is something he just does not want to do. But the potential to tie up the divisions becomes a real thing if Pereira really does say, I want to be the heavyweight champion. But here's the issue, Chael, with light heavyweight. One guy that is potentially the number one contender, Alex has beaten twice. The other guy, Carlos Ulberg, has not fought for the belt yet, is still relatively young in his career. If Alex leaves, I think it hurts the light heavyweight division much more than it hurts the heavyweight division.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what to do there. And by the way, Laura Sanko had made an argument. I'm going to kind of steal her idea, but she was talking about, look, there really is an importance between Pereira and Ulberg. And she left it at that. But to add to that thought, right now, Ulberg versus Pereira is the smallest fight that we've talked about. I understand that isn't this huge blockbuster. Here's the problem, though. If Ulberg goes on to be great, if Ulberg wins his next 5 fights, for example, which is going to kick the can down the road 3 years, it's definitely going to put a belt around his waist. It's going to involve Ankalaev. It's going to involve Prohaska. That's where, in hindsight, we look back and go, wait a minute, Pereira didn't clean that division out. Pereira didn't fight Ulberg. And it's one of these things where later in life you look back on it. Charles Oliveira was pursuing this with Khabib. Charles comes in the back. When King Khabib steps down, Charles becomes the guy. At the time, though, that Khabib was here, Charles was number 4. And it was very easy for all of us to say that Khabib has cleaned out the division. We didn't know how good Charles was. So when Charles comes in, he fights Justin Gaethje. He fights Poirier.
He fought Chandler. Poirier.
Yeah, but when he did that, he finished them both. Khabib finished them both, but Charles had finished them both in a combined 63 seconds faster. I'm only sharing for you, like, all of a sudden the conversation comes of, wait a minute, was this the right guy? Did Khabib beat everybody? That's the one thing where Ulberg versus Pereira, if you can do the fight, if it's the right fight, that's where, to Laura Sanko's point, it could be important. It's more for the future, looking back.
Hey, Chael, yeah, it's crazy to think about all that's happening in these divisions. And with the UFC not really willing to let people be double champion anymore, that light heavyweight division would open up. And Pereira does say, I would like to fight for the UFC heavyweight championship, which to me, Pereira can do pretty much whatever he wants at this point because he's done so much in such a short period of time and he's meant so much to the UFC. Chael, I'm going to wrap the show. I know it's going to be a quick one because I've been struggling. Yeah, I fought some tough fights. I've fought some tough fights in my life. I am sick as a dog right now, Chael. I've been pausing. I've been blowing my nose. It's crazy, bro. I got napkins everywhere right now. So we got to wrap the show. I'm sorry, Chael. I know you like to go a little longer. But we're going to cut this one at about 35 minutes, guys. So, hey, for Chael Sonnen, I'm Daniel Cormier. Thank you for joining Good Guy, Bad Guy. Until next time.